I believe you have my stapler.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Guys, I've got the one and only SoloBass15. I'm actually glad there's only one of you, to be honest. But we've got he's my podcast co-host, and he's agreed to come and do this top 10. It's actually like a top 6 video on what we've learned from this season of 5v5. So, Solo, how you doing today, my friend?
I am good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So, I don't know if I even said your name. Solo Base 15. It's obvious to me, but guys, I will absolutely have his Twitch and his YouTube channel linked. I always have our podcast channels linked and everything, but do yourself a favor, go follow him. He knows what he's talking about. What did you have? You had an 11 in one season this 5v5?
It was 11-1. If it wasn't for a stupid gas team, it would have been 12-0.
Yeah, no one likes him. Yeah, so cool, man. So it's this is exciting that we're finally actually making. I don't know when the last time we made a video was is like when we did like the Supreme Leader Kylo Ray kit evaluations, which were like we were just totally off on what
Completely
was.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
analysis. Yeah, so guys, with that as our pedigree, like certainly listen to us. That being said, we did notice some things about 5v5, and it's important. We had expanded divisions for the first time. I really enjoyed it. I think it added a lot of nuance, but it can be tricky. So, the first thing that we noticed, and this is a great point. Solo is the one who brought it up. You need to get some 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in Division 2, Division 1, where you have 10, 11 teams on the board that you're fighting. If you bring a bunch of offense teams that are going to lose banners, you're going to lose. I can't tell you how many times my opponent has one shot the board and I still beat them by 20 or 30 banners because I had 5 or 6 teams that could get me 60 banners against the weaker teams. It let me lose the banners against the good teams and then against the weaker teams that they set, because everybody, you have to set some weaker teams. I was able to get 60 banners there and drop none. And that let me win. I mean, we both one shot the board, but I did it better.
Well, I mean, a 60 is basically just like making it so that the team that you're fighting, just like didn't count toward the scoring. And
Right.
it puts pressure on them to do the same in that same slot. And so, yeah, having 5 or 6 teams where you're like, yeah, like I had no loss there. Like my team did exactly what it needed to do. Now, I think the important thing to stress, though, of course, is I mean, I could get a 60, I could get a 63 with Supreme Leader Kylo on several teams, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea. It's just you need to have some teams like Jedi Training Ray. I know that so that's
Yeah.
one of your mainstays that you just get a ton of holds with. Like that's one of them that you need to make sure that you have teams like that are gonna just be a workhorse for you every single match. Get 60.
Yeah, exactly. JTR troopers, bounty hunters. There's plenty of protection regen out there. Um, Keep some of the teams with protection regen for offense.
Absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing here too is like this extends to like mid level teams especially. Like you want 60s on these mid
Right.
level teams. Like it doesn't matter nearly as much if you can get 60s on the small, like you want 60s on the smaller teams and you want 60s on the bigger teams, but these mid level teams that can really hang you up, like getting a 60 on them, super nice.
Right.
So we had second thing we noticed. Kat, Commander Ahsoka Tano on defense. Uh, she made an immediate impact the last couple weeks of 5v5, and I mean, the two that I lost were due to her. One of them was due to a bug, actually. Well, partially. I'm not going to blame everything, but it was partially due to a bug, and then the other part, like she's just so distracting and good. Like I actually ended up killing her before she like even went both of the matches, but she impacts so much. But the idea here is she's great on defense until she's not.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. With Commander Ahsoka Tano, it's a game of chicken, right? If both people place Cat on defense, it's whose soft counter is going to fail and whose isn't. Maybe both of them win, but I've seen multiple screenshots in our Discord server of both people put Cat on defense. One person was able to clear, the other person wasn't, and obviously the person that didn't clear lost because Sith Eternal with the scrubs that basically and the stupid Jedi Master Kenobi AI just decided to do the right thing once and kill Daka or kill whoever it was, and the person lost without a chance to win. Meanwhile, I kept Cat on offense every single time. I got 60 against Cat teams multiple times because I used my own Cat, and so it's great to put the new shiny toy on defense. But if you can't handle the shiny toy when somebody else places it on defense, maybe you shouldn't put it on defense as well.
Yeah, I think that's really valid. Like, I, I mean, I remember a long time ago on the podcast, someone asked a question. It was like, so what happens when the new meta comes out and you want like the new meta character comes out? Like, do you put them on defense immediately or do you put them on offense? And our answer was you put them on offense. You keep them on
Right.
offense because you need to be able to kill whatever is there. And right now we don't have a ton of really established off meta counters to Cat and Kenobi and stuff. I know that the community is going to find some. I think that there's already a few promising things, but Cat on defense is cool if you can, oh, but only if you can actually, if you can afford it. Like you don't want to get into a point where you're like, man, you know what I need to win is Cat, but she's on defense, so damn it all.
Right. And this does not only apply to Cat. It applies to Cat this season, but
Right.
I mean, I can remember going back to the Darth Revan Malik days of everybody would put Darth Revan on defense. And again, it was the game of chicken of I would keep mine for offense. I would clear their Darth Revan and clear their full board. And how many people did we see back then that didn't full clear? 'Cause both of them put Darth Revan in the top zone, which back then was worth more. And both of them only cleared the bottom. If that's the game you want to play, I know people that will gladly play that way. Fine. But you're not going to get a top spot if you do that. And really, if you are only if you're an 8-4 type of guy, you want to clear the board every time because you want to make Kyber. If you are a 12-0 type of guy, you want to clear the board every time so you can make top 10. So if you're potentially risking not clearing the board, why? unless unless you need that strategy to win, and then that's obviously completely different.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes it's like, well, if you don't have a GL and the other guy does, and you're like, well, I can't clear their GL, but they can't clear me if I put a hard enough defense down. Sometimes you got to play that half game. I know there's a guy on our Discord server who he's like, "Oh, I won 11 matches this season, and I still didn't make Kyber because I didn't
Right.
clear half the time." I'm like, "Jeez, it
Yep.
sucks. Stop doing
Yeah.
that. Stop."
Right. Right.
It's their, they make Kyber sometimes, but it's funny how their win rate, it just does not match their Kyber rate at all. It's bizarre. But
Yeah.
that being said, the next thing we noticed, folks, is, and this is absolutely coming from me, a tough defense isn't everything. You need a plan. And something I'm guilty of sometimes. I'm like, okay, so I don't have time to really plan really well. So I'm just going to put a ton of tough teams down, and it's not going to have any coordination. I'll make sure I have a plan for offense for the most part. Like I'm never really caught with my pants down all the way on defense. Like I or on offense, I usually can clear, even if it ends up like being multi shots on multiple different characters. But in this case, though, I mean, the two times I lost, really, I had really tough defenses down, but my opponents were able to clear me efficiently. And that's like being able to have a cohesive defense that actually has characters that work with each other and that require the same counters to force tough decisions, that is really the epitome of it. Like, you could have weaker teams overall if they all work in concert to each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the perfect example of this on the other side was on the fight night, in week 3, where my opponent placed 4 GLs, Gas, Darth Revan, CLS, and Beskar Mando all in the front zone. I had placed 3 GLs, Darth Revan, and Gas on defense. So I still had a plan of how to clear teams if they came up, and one one of those counters was kind of sketchy, and I was not happy about it. But I had the plan as a just in case. I was able to one shot his board with all of that on defense, and he got to my back zone. I let my defenses roll over that round, so he knew exactly what I had because he watched the stream before. And B, he got to the back zone, and before he even got to the back zone, he told me, I'm not going to be able to clear you because I know what's back there, and I didn't keep something for it." So I had a plan, he didn't, and I one shot his board, and he didn't full clear me.
Yeah, game over.
Yeah, that's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you do a really good job of making your defensive teams work in concert to each other. Now, the next thing we wanted to talk, like the next point number 4, tricky teams on defense. Now, we're both in Division 1, at least on our main accounts, and you can't have universally impossible teams to beat and still expect to be able to clear your opponent. Like,
Right.
that's unless your opponent is just incompetent entirely. So, I think 2 teams that worked really well for you, Solo, like you mentioned, you really liked the Treya squad and the fast Poe Scav resistance team. Like, what,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Treya in the front bottom zone, people don't know how to kill it. It hasn't been meta for years, and so people never put it on defense. People just don't know how to kill it. And even if you do, for example, Troopers is probably the easiest way to kill it if you have Dark Trooper. But because of Trey's abilities, they lose banners. Or I saw a lot of people use Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke on Treya in the front bottom zone, and that's great because I had Supreme Leader Kylo in the back. Meanwhile, um, the Poe and the Scav under a Finn lead team, Poe doesn't need to be blazing fast. I think I had him around 280 and Scav around 290, which for them is like a plus 100 set. So if you're in a smaller division, you probably don't have the mods for this. But then again, you probably don't need to set this team. But they're all characters that people have relicked up because of Rey. If they went for Rey, which most people in Division 1 have most of the GLs anyway. And Scav starts with her big hit, and which means she's going to steal some banners right away. And then Poe gets the taunt up fast, and then when Poe loses the taunt, Finn gains the taunt, and if you have another taunter in there like Holdo, it's musical chairs at the taunt, and you just can't hit Scav, who then does her second special, which is a multi-hit, but it's still basically a big hit, and so she steals some more banners, and people were one-shotting it, but I can't tell you how many 53s people got against that team.
yeah, I mean that's super important. I mean, I think I lost to one of those Finn teams. Actually, it wasn't even particularly fast. It was just a team that it was like, well, like I don't have much left. It was after a concert, like a bunch of failures on my end, and I just didn't have that good of options. And if you put your opponent into a position where they have to try taking a team out like that, like it's can be really frustrating and scary. So, you know, uh, having a fast Poe and Scav, you're like, well, I don't have anything over 300 speed now
Right,
left. Like,
right.
I have no choice but to get terrible banners. So, really good. Now, one thing, and this has been true for a long time, but it's even more true now that we have more teams on defense. You can't trap the top, guys. in 5v5. Like that's not a thing. It's not
Right.
like you always you trap on the bottom because otherwise, if you put all your tough teams on the top, then your opponent doesn't have anything. Like they're just like, oh, okay, well I'll kill your four bad teams on the bottom, and then I'll have perfect information to plan perfectly against you. And whereas it'll work sometimes, it'll only work against bad players. The sometimes includes bad players, not the good ones. So maybe stop trapping up
Yeah.
top.
Right. The bottom front, man. The bottom front is meant for teams that are going to make your opponent want to use their strongest teams to counter, but they know that they can't. So one of two things are going to happen. They're going to use their strongest team and then not have it for your best teams that are hiding in the back, or they're going to try and underkill it and use something that just isn't strong enough, and then you get a hold. And then they get to your back and they're like, oh, well, I could have used X, Y, and Z, but they didn't know that at the time. So that front and bottom is really, really important. And the back, I can't tell you how many times this season, I opened up the back zone and it was not cheese because there's some people that put decent teams back there, but there was nothing that the front worked in concert with. Like I mentioned how I have Treya in the front and I actually put Grievous in the front and then I put Kylo in the back because it's two teams that want to steal JKR and then a team that you need a stronger team that you need JKR to counter if you don't have the right GL. So the two zones have to work in concert. And if you put all the good teams up top, like you said, that bottom zone is kind of worthless, and the bottom zone is worth more points wise in most of the divisions. I'm not sure about some of the smaller divisions, but in most of the divisions, the bottom is worth more. So why would you block the top anyway?
Right? Yeah. Do your math, but otherwise, like it also just doesn't make sense because once you hit ships, it's a new game mode. Like
Right.
even though it's still GAC, it resets the resources, and so it's like once you get to ships, it doesn't matter how much you've expended. Like there's no trapping. It's not like, okay, well I put this ship squad in the hopes that in the top zone he would use Treya. It's like because then
Right.
he can't use Treya against my ships. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it's not they don't work well together at all. Like just two separate resource pools. So finally, guys, and this is a Gambit mainstay on our podcast. If you listen to it, we talk about this all the time. Have a plan, dear Lord. I
Yes.
just
Yes.
so Solo, you coach people all the time. I coach people sometimes. I'm constantly giving advice though, one way or another. People hit me up. They're like, "Hey, what do I do?" And consistently, it's just like, "Okay, so use Jedi Revan there." They're like, "I don't have Jedi Revan." Okay, cool. So
Right.
so you use Treya. I don't have Treya. Well, what about like Supreme Leader Kylo? Do you have him? No. I'm like, dude, this is the front zone. Like it's not. It's just like you put all this on defense, thinking like you're hoping your opponent wouldn't just deploy this team. Like,
Right.
have a plan.
Right. If you just look for 10 minutes before, in the defense placement round, before you place your defenses, you can at least see what's on their roster and know, hey, if that's on defense, what's going to happen? And, if the answer is, I don't know, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
If the answer is, okay, well, I'll keep this and this and hope it works, at least you put thought into it and you have a plan for something that opens up. Um, you can't just say, I'll deal with it when it comes up and hopefully I have something.
Yeah. I'm gonna call the Gambit guys.
Right, right.
Who are you gonna call? Gambit. Yeah.
And we're gonna tell you you're wrong.
Yeah. We'll make you feel dumb. No.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. Actually, trying to make them shorter videos. So, Solo, anything you want to say to the community?
Uh, no, just actually put some thought into what you do, and you will be successful. That's half of this game mode. And other than
Absolutely.
that, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Gambit prevails.